life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Evening, folks. It's Wednesday evening. I don't know what day it is. It's the day after Valentine's Day. It's been a memorable week for many different things, but this is Let's Talk F1. It says it's Let's Talk F1. We got my boy Matty. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, mate. I am good. We've had a couple more launches. Been very exciting. How you doing, my friend?
Doing very well. Doing very well. We've had some very pretty cars since we last spoke. Some interesting, shall we say? There's definitely seems to be a theme in a lot of the cars that have come through. A lot, especially the last one today, and we'll get to that as we go through some of the pretty pictures. But it's quite interesting to see how much carbon fiber has been on show, or how many bits of black are on every single piece of car.
Yes, quite. You know, I'm all for a black livery. I quite like a black car. But you know, I can't help but feel like the grid might look a little bit boring this year when they're all kind of lined up against each other. Like, you know, I thought give it a couple of years, I'd miss that pink Racing Point livery, but I'm missing it now.
Missing it already. We're missing it already. Now, Alpha was one of the first ones to kind of come out. Yes, they've kept with a very similar red and white, and I know you love the red and white from last time around, but the white's kind of like gone. And as you can see from that top one there, it's a lot of black. And initially I thought, well, everyone's gone black. And it was only now a bit more reading. Obviously, everyone's trimming out the weight, and they've decided that painting their chassis is just an extra 20 grams that they can't afford or whatever it is. So everything's now carbon fiber black. Alpha have done really well. I mean, it looks pretty sleek. It looks pretty mean.
Yeah, I think it's a handsome car. I mean, it's beautiful. I think the only thing I potentially worry about is maybe whether, compared to obviously like the Mercedes, which we'll get onto, and maybe a couple of other cars, maybe if it is going to be one of those cars that's maybe just a bit hard to stand out for a crowd, maybe. I think I think by itself that is a gorgeous car. I do just worry it's maybe going to blend into like the background a little bit.
It might look a little bit like some of the other majority black cars with a flash of red on it. Aston, what did you think of the Aston? I like the green. I know we talked about it before. It looks like they've gone with a different, brighter green on the car, which I think hopefully gives it that bit more of an edge that we talked about in real life. It looks, I mean, obviously there's a lot of black carbon fiber around it, but they've definitely gone with a more metallic-y British racing green. I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think almost from the renders and photos, at least, it almost looks as if they've gone maybe a bit more like the Red Bull Persuasion. It's maybe a bit more matte than like a shiny thing, in which case, like, I maybe think that would work. I also think I feel like it's kind of weird, but having less of that really bright green, I feel like kind of makes that stand out a little bit more as well. And I quite like the smaller details, like the Aston Martin logo is now white. I feel like that looks a lot better than just kind of whamming that light color on there for kind of no reason. Like, I quite like, you know, I almost feel like now that the accents are smaller, they kind of do their job and stand out a bit more. At least that's how I look at that car.
But they're also, the accents on the Aston Martin are very Aston Martin, slightly understated, slightly, you know, they don't need to smash it in your face like they did the year
exactly,
before.
yeah.
Like,
it's
this is an Aston Martin.
It's not overly in your face, I think, now.
You don't need to scream it from the rafters, it's an Aston. That was just a comparison, just to show the difference in the last year's car and this year's car, and the difference in the green is quite noticeable. And what's really different.
Yeah, wow.
What's really noticeable, you look at the side pods on the left compared to the new ones. They have massively changed the side pods on the Aston.
So I know during the season they kind of went through a bit of a revamp, didn't they? Where they brought like a pretty major upgrade package where it looked like they almost turned up with a different car. So yeah, it looks like they've definitely carried on down that second
Yeah.
avenue.
I mean, that's true. I mean, this picture is probably, what the car looked like at launch last year. So
yeah.
as you say, it evolved over the season. So probably never didn't finish looking like that. But suddenly seeing the difference there, it looks higher. The halo's higher. It looks like the side pods are a lot more aggressive. There's a lot of, even though it's just been an evolution of the cars, it does look like there are some quite drastic changes on some cars.
That definitely looks to be like one of the biggest changes so far, I think, because like a lot of them is, this year has kind of felt like a bit of a like development year, which I guess it is, right? Obviously, last year, was like first year of new regulations, whatever. Actually, Alpha's probably a good one to mention. It's not just the color changes; like it looks like it's side by side, but if you look at that, definitely to like stuff like the floor, as well as I guess the
floor looks different there.
Look at there's some definite differences.
The engine cover there is much wider, isn't it? In this year's left-hand side car, looking at this picture compared to, the narrowing that it was before. So there's a lot of little differences. It's not just, hey, look, it's black rather than white on the Alpha as well. And then we go into the new AlphaTauri. The
AlphaTauri, yeah, this was a strange one. I mean, like, the launch was just incredibly understated. They kind of just did it, and then that was it.
So here's a picture of our car.
Yeah, it was kind of just like, okay, there's the car, done. All right. I don't know how I feel about the AlphaTauri. I like it. I think I really love the whole sort of AlphaTauri branding. I love the livery and stuff. I just think, obviously, they had to work it in because Orlen was a new sponsor for them. But just having the red on that car, I really don't know how to feel about it. Like, obviously, they used to, they used to sponsor Alfa Romeo, which kind of just helped with the like red and white branding.
Yeah, the red looked good. Yeah. Now it does seem to be.
Just kind of looks sort of yammed on because it has to be,
It's much like we just mentioned about the Alfa, the Alfa Romeo, not the Alfa, sorry, the Aston Martin slamming a logo on. Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? It's like, oh, we've got to put it in. It reminds me a lot of, was it the Alpine 2 seasons ago? When they switched and they suddenly had to find some space to put some bright pink on
the random BWT,
because suddenly they changed their sponsor and it's like, we haven't, just stick it on, it doesn't matter, it'll show up. And that kind of feels a little bit like the red that they've done there. And it is, I mean, looking at that, it looks like glowing red almost. So
yeah.
I mean, I like the, obviously the matte black on this one, the blue color they've kept with that sort of, I don't even know what kind of blue it is, but it's that specific AlphaTauri blue. So
that's what I mean. I think branding wise, I feel like that's, love them or hate them, the Red Bull teams know their branding, and my God, they do it well. Like, I've never seen an AlphaTauri car that I've thought, I don't like that. It's not like, they're just flawless. And like, again, Red Bull, they don't change very much every year, but they don't need to. Their car that livery looks amazing, like whatever you put it on. So, like them or hate them, Red Bull can do branding. That's one thing they do incredibly
that's one thing
well.
they do. And it seems that the sister team, or the whatever it's now called, I guess it's not a sister team, it's now spun off, but they've kept some marketing people involved, and that does seem to be their new blue brand. And it will be interesting to see this one, because thinking about it, there's not really any of the other launches that have kind of gone anywhere near this color scheme. So they may actually stand out by, them and Red Bull.
Yeah, I think AlphaTauri has maybe gone from one of those blendy-in cars to with the sort of like lack of
flashes
color
of
in other places. That might be one of the things you look out for. The old white and blue AlphaTauri.
The old white and blue, you might suddenly spot it. Now, Valentine's Day Ferrari, they just gave us they gave us a car launch of car launches, and they actually, they did it so well. They showed, literally, like, unveiled the car, go, here's the car, by the way, this car is ready to go because Charles Leclerc is getting in it and driving it around the track. If you want a car launch, you want to actually launch your car, that's how you do it. You have your little pet track, you fly in thousands of fans, and one of my friends was out there. I'm not jealous of her at all. Some of the pictures she got a selfie under the arm of Charles Leclerc. She's like, not jealous at all of you.
Absolutely not. Yeah, no.
But the car itself, absolutely beautiful. Ferrari have done it again. Just a beautiful car. Sounds gorgeous. Looks good. Goes already. That's how you do a Valentine's Day launch.
No, stunning car. Again, it's very much an evolution of last year, but I just really like. I mean, not that they had to change much. I think that car they had last year was potentially one of my favorite looking F1 cars of all time.
Yeah.
But I like the subtle tweaks they've made. The almost very like retro looking spoiler with the Ferrari logo. I think that's really nice. That is a gorgeous F1 car. But yeah, also I completely agree. I think what a way to launch a car. Like, not a lot of the teams or anything are actually kind of brave enough to show footage of their car on track already. So I think the fact that they have gone out there and done that, I think that's either like a masterstroke if this actually is a really good car, or if they kind of massively bottle this is going to look very silly. But I think Ferrari have really set the bar of how to do a car launch. I mean, what a way to introduce that to the world. Phenomenal.
I mean, historically, I know that there's not been such a big deal about car launches, and usually you turn up on the first day of pre-season testing, and everyone rolls their cars out, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah, it looks pretty," but you've got no chance to actually do a fancy launch and take a picture. Literally, it's put your drivers on the wheels, take a picture, shove it on the track because you've got to go because you're at pre-season testing. But Ferrari bringing a car, dropping it on the track, and running it. I know other teams have done then filming days post-launch that have not been open to the public, but the fact that Ferrari had a YouTube, had everything live, had people there seeing it and doing it, stunning. Either, as you say, ballsy, just dropping it, going, hey, our car last year should have won the championship if we hadn't had such a Ferrari meltdown. So this is it. This is what we've got. Our car's good to go. We've tweaked it. Not as much carbon fiber as some of the others. They've managed to keep the red in it, which was interesting. Which either means last year their car was light, because I know a lot of the regulations, and this year they've had to shave a couple of kilos off, which is why a lot of the other teams have gone with no paint. Could explain why their car was so fast last year. They'd managed to bring it underweight. I think, from what we were saying about which cars are going to stand out, the fact that there is so much Ferrari red on the Ferrari should really allow us to see that. I mean, let's be honest, we can always spot a Ferrari on track no matter anyway.
Yeah, I think even if, I don't know, say red was the lightest, like, weight coloured paint, I think even if every car was red, I think you'd still be able to spot the Ferrari. They're just, it's an iconic thing. But I also like how the black has been integrated. Like, even if that is a weight saving measure, I wouldn't look at that Ferrari and say, okay, there's only black parts on it to save weight. Like, that just genuinely is a succinct, good looking car. I feel like some of them, you kind of can look at them like almost like I feel like I'd maybe put maybe McLaren and probably Haas into that bracket of that's quite a nice livery, but that probably is a weight saving measure that there's a lot more black on it than years before, right? But that, even if it is a weight saving thing, that's been
it's been done in an Italian style type way, hasn't it? Rather than it's weight saving. We could go with orange. We could go with blue. Leave it with carbon. But that fin at the back, as you say, that fin just tails into carbon at the top there. I think that's a beautiful touch. Some of the little swoops and stuff like that. They just look like they're designed to be there, rather than, as you say, they've built the car and gone, it's a little heavy, just don't paint that bit.
Yeah, it's just a nicely designed car. Like, you can't always necessarily trust the team to do the right things with it, but it will look good.
It will look good while whatever they do happens. Speaking of car with a lot more black than expected,
I'm just gonna go for it. I don't like it. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't overly keen on it their last year's design, just because I think what they had before, when it was purely just papaya and blue, I loved that. I thought that was wicked. And then they obviously introduced the black last year, and I kind of went off it a little bit last year. And this year's just more of that. I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing. I'm really not a fan. I have nothing against the team. I love McLaren. I love the whole team and the whole vibe. They really love their fans, etc., etc., etc. But I'm not feeling this one. I'm not gonna lie.
Not gonna lie. I was a little upset with the excessive amount of black, which that's what I thought. I thought, as you say, the papaya and blue, if they'd have gone a little bit more on that, great. But if it's a weight saving measure, yada. But how much weight did they then have to save to have quite as much black on their car?
Yeah, and I
You
guess
do
is that
wonder
maybe a
what-
worrying thing to look into as well,
It's like
right? Is
something
like
that it's already flagging that that car must have been pushing quite close to the weight limit to
to be
put
fair,
so
I
much
guess
black.
as much as I like, cars like the Alfa Romeo, because that's a mean looking car, you could probably lump them in the same bracket, right? In that, like, Alfa Romeo at the start of last season were so fast, and they kind of tailed off. And maybe if they're chucking that much black on the car, like, is that a worry if they're right up against the limit? Like, I don't hate it. I just think compared to, like, look at that, the MCL 35. That is
Yeah, that's
it's a
what you want,
bit
isn't it?
boxy because it's the old shape, but I love that. I think that's gorgeous.
And I also think McLaren, because it's their 60th year as well, I
Mhm.
thought they were going to do something,
like
something
lean
a little,
into the whole brand a bit more.
really
Yeah.
lean into the retro feel, maybe go back to something. I mean, obviously there are things that they can't, people are out there going, why don't you just go back to the red and white? It's like, well, that's tobacco sponsorship, and
Yeah,
there's stipulation, you can't go you can't
It's
go
a bit more
Marlboro
complicated
your
than just
car.
painting the car. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just go slap it and make it a big cigarette machine going around. But there were other colours that potentially they could have gone back to. And as we've mentioned already, that they could have used the Gulf livery because they're in that kind of colour scheme. But then of course they can't because Williams have grabbed that. So I'm wondering if you do wonder if they were thinking of going down a special Gulf Papaya livery type road, and then Gulf went, sorry, we're off to Williams, you can't use that.
Yeah, I think it does leave some question marks. I mean, obviously, this is just like the base livery. There might be one-off liveries. I know they did a couple last year that were really nice for like the last few races. So there might be some evolutions of this evolution that turn out to be nicer. I just think for the base, I'm not crazy about it.
I do notice that, like, from a technical point of view, they've gone again with more angry, more swoop side pods. There's a lot more sort of work around the body there. So a lot of the side pods look very similar to the Red Bull side pods now. Everyone's almost copied the Red Bull side pod. So
except Mercedes apparently, and
I mean, and this is where we kind of have to go, okay, all those people we've been talking about and all those other cars where we said, you haven't put paint on it because it's too heavy, and then McLaren, then Mercedes come and drop this, and you just go, well, why didn't everybody just do that?
Yeah, oh my good lord, it's basically, it looks like last year's car just with a better livery. Again, this is a very, very evolutionary year for F1, isn't it? I think it's not, nothing groundbreaking is going to happen. I do think this is going to be like really interesting for Mercedes this year to see if like they've actually got their heads around this almost no side pod like idea that they're going with, because I think last year
with it, haven't they? They've stuck with the,
because I mean, like last year it definitely had some benefits. However, there obviously they had a lot of issues with like porpoising and stuff, so it clearly had its downsides as well. But yeah, again, they've gone subtly. I feel like it is subtle. It's not like that in your face, but I feel like all the cars look just like a little bit more aggressive this year, like a little bit meaner. They're all a bit more angular, a bit more like, I don't know, there's just something about them.
Leaning forward almost about them, isn't there? I don't know if it's the side, and you can see there's a little bit more of a swoop on the side pods, but I think I thought Mercedes last year were quite clever in their livery. The livery it swooped down and up, but the side pods actually didn't. So the livery didn't kind of follow the line of the car in some aspects.
Yeah.
Whereas, because that, if you look at the W13, that blue swoop that kind of goes down and up, the side pods didn't go down and up. They just kind of went down, but your eyes were kind of like drifting upwards and losing that. But whereas you can see on the W14 that the side pods are a little bit more noticeable in that groove downwards. As you say, it's not much of a change. Maybe the rear wings a little higher, engine cover a little bit different. I
think the rear wing engine cover and the front wing look to be the main changes. But yeah, nothing huge. And I guess that kind of makes sense, right? Because like towards the end of the year, I mean, it took them a very long time, but towards the end of the year, it really looked like Mercedes had finally figured this car concept out, right? In Brazil, kind of not out of nowhere, but all of a sudden it was like, oh my god, they can win races with this car.
It can go quickly, and it can.
Yeah, like it has to be quite specific, because sometimes that car is pretty dreadful. But it looked like they had like a breakthrough moment. They'd kind of figured, okay, right, we can, okay, cool. This car, yes, it's not useless.
They almost like the engineers and everybody got together with the right sort of design.
They'd finally just had that moment. It just clicked. They're like, oh, it does work. Yeah.
Because I saw we needed to do was tweak that little bit, or
So I'm excited for them this year. I think the going back to black is significant as well. And again, it might just be a weight saving issue. Fine, like it genuinely might be. But considering how ridiculously good all of the black Mercedes have been, I feel like this feels significant. Watch me eat my words, and this Mercedes be terrible, and just be terrible in black.
We'll be back after pre-season testing when the Mercedes are like broken down, been unreliable, like slowest laps ever, and you'd be like, Dan
will have sacked me off because all my inaccurate predictions. This may be the worst.
This one might be the one that's even.
I'm like, right,
worse.
It's coming over again, and then they're just worse than Haas.
Worse than Haas. It porpoises so much it almost takes off on the back straight.
Toto Wolff just walks out of Brackley. I'm done with this.
It was quite interesting. I think I read something. I think it was on Autosport or something. Toto Wolff did say that there was logic behind it. Yeah, he admitted. There's obviously the weight saving aspect of it, but it's almost quite a nice nod back to the silver arrows as how Mercedes originally arrived. They turned up at races. They were too heavy. The mechanics literally scraped the paint off the car and just lent it go out with a pale silver car.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a similar sort of nod to what they've done. Also, it was quite interesting because I read that they've also utilized the black to ensure that they keep on message with the diversity and we race as one and everything else. And I thought that was telling that he mentioned that, considering the gagging order, if you like, that has been placed on F1 drivers by the FIA. I thought for a whole team to almost show that their colours for BLM and diversity and all that sort of stuff was quite brave and quite inspiring in a weird way.
No, I think you're right. I think obviously with the team being in the position it is, I guess with obviously Lewis Hamilton being like the poster boy of the team, obviously they're in a different position to everyone else anyway. But I think like you said, it's good to kind of see this like statement. Obviously with what has come out from the FIA, obviously we've kind of had quite a few drivers like Lewis, Max, Lando kind of all speaking out saying they think that's kind of dumb. Drivers should be able to use their platform for whatever they want. Obviously they've kind of built themselves up enough to an extent to be able to say what they should. But I think it's an actual for a whole team to come out, because I guess it's all well and good the drivers coming out, but at the end of the day, with all the people that work at the FIA, all the people that work at the teams and stuff, that is at most only 20 people, right? Talking out about this for
22, exactly.
For an entire team, which is, a tenth of the entire kind of body of F1, which is like pinnacle of motorsport. For a whole team to come out and say something, that's something you'd imagine they wouldn't be able to ignore kind of quite.
Not just in all the nicest possible way, not a Haas or a Williams, but a front-running, championship-winning. How many years have they won the Constructors' Championship? For the constructor to come out and do it as a whole, that's like, you're not going to be able to ignore that black car because it's going to be on the screen a lot up at the front of the grid. What does that kind of say about the FIA and the gagging order? Yeah, very brave decision by Mercedes.
I guess there's also other ways of looking at it as well, right? Is obviously, I guess Mercedes are more than just their own manufacturer, right? They supply engines to obviously themselves, but Williams, Aston Martin, and currently McLaren, and McLaren are in talks with potentially Honda about another thing, but I don't know what's happening with that. But that's like 40% of the entire grid, is in some way, shape, or form, kind of in dealings with this Mercedes team. So that all of a sudden makes them a bigger player than, like you said, just a Haas, who are not piggybacking off someone else, but are essentially
they are a customer team, aren't they? They are.
It's a big deal. This isn't just nobody talking about this. This is a big thing for them to come out and say.
It was quite interesting. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you saw, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that Bin Sulayem is being asked to kind of take a bit of a step back, or, maybe, be a bit more conscious that what he's saying, what he's tweeting may not be in the the best light. So I'm pretty sure I heard something that he might have to take a step back and somebody else will take over the F1 side of the FIA aspect. But
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Because I think as far as I know, he's taken a step back from the day-to-day running of Formula One, which seems weird. But then I hear people from his side are saying that like this has always been the plan.
he was always supposed to just be that. He was always supposed to be a transitional period of he takes over for a little while somebody else comes in.
Yeah, it's been weird. I know obviously he hasn't been in charge for like the longest time in the world, but I know there's been quite a lot of controversies under his tenureship. I think would be the way to say it. Obviously,
yeah,
you know,
maybe not he put them there, you know, and whatever else.
No, but it just seems like a lot of things happening. Like I know obviously there was the whole Abu Dhabi thing, and then there was how long that report took to come out. I know that was something people took a lot of issue with because it seemed like it just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And then kind of after all that, it was just like, well, it's happened. There's nothing we can do about it, which I think to a lot of people was quite unsatisfactory. There was obviously like the jewelry issue, like, and obviously now this kind of saying that drivers can't talk about things they want to talk. Like, it just seems like there's so many like questionable things that have been happening. Yeah,
noise that's been created unnecessarily. I think when in all said and done, the racing has been good enough. The driver competition has been good enough. It didn't need the last thing it needed after the Abu Dhabi controversy was more politics, more controversy, more just random noise. You know, let's get back to the racing. Let's get back to the cars. Who knows? Hopefully, we'll get a bit more of that this season.
Yeah, I think so. I think I feel like what's kind of made this so like strange, I guess, is like the stock in F1 has kind of never felt like it's been as high as it is right now. Like with things like Drive to Survive and stuff, like F1 is so popular, like it's booming, like in places it hasn't necessarily done before. Like, you know, like we mentioned before, there's 3 races in America right now. Like they're capitalizing on so many people being interested in this sport. And I guess with how much like weird stuff was going on, that was almost not like a stain on it, but it was a bit of like a like, you know, on one hand things are going really well and everything's good, and then on this hand it's like that doesn't feel right. So
could you maybe stop doing that? That's not really helping us.
Yeah, I think it was probably a change that needed to happen. So maybe things will go back to being a bit more normal, because I felt like it was just getting to a bit of a worrying state where, like I said, you know, it was going really well, but on the other hand, it was like, but it could all come crashing down.
Yeah, and it did almost look like it felt like sometimes it was picking at things to make the tower crumble, doesn't it? It was almost like, what happens if I do this? Oh, I'm at this. But yeah, anyway, fingers crossed. We've got one more launch tomorrow. The Alpine are the last one, hopefully not the least one. I'm still expecting a fully fledged tricolor driving down the Champs-Elysees, maybe unveiling it at the top of the Eiffel Tower. How French could you be with the French team, with the French
come on.
lineup?
If
it's not on a boat down the Seine,
if the tarpaulin over the car is not coloured like a croissant, I will be genuinely quite angry, I think.
What about if it's a French flag that they drape off of a croissant coloured car? What about if the livery's croissant?
For the French Grand Prix, just a one-off croissant livery. Yes.
Make it happen, Alpine. Come on.
If anyone from Alpine is watching this,
why? First of all, because you've got a car.
First of all, do you not have a better thing to do with your time? Second of all, free marketing right here, okay? All right, we're
just giving this stuff away.
We're both free a lot of the time, as you can see, because this is the best thing we can come up with. So
this is all we can come up with. So
there's a reason nobody's hired us before, but you could be the guy. You could do it.
You could buck the trend.
We could have some fun painting a car like a croissant, I think.
I mean, you could even do it with faces of your fans. You could actually colour it. Anyway, let's not get into Speaking of.
We will talk about this off air. We'll create our own croissant F1 coming
bakery F1
2045. Maybe we'll have to find some very rich people. We'll deal with this later.
We could come up with the logistics. Speaking of logistics, Matty, where's your team, man?
Do you know what? Team? I've made my team. I genuinely just forgot the code for the league. So I've got the team set up because I'm pretty sure my team is called Felipe Massive, which I thought was quite
Nice.
So tell you what, if you give me the code right now, I'll
Right now, the access
whack it
code
on.
139278223. I
Oh
like
shoot!
it.
I was not
Felipe
as ready
Massive.
for that as I needed to be. Fantasy GP.
FantasyGP.com.
FantasyGP.com. Get me involved. All right. Not sign up. Oh
Top right
Christ!
corner. Top right
Imagine
corner.
making this much of a gaff whilst live. Couldn't be
Whilst
me.
live. No professional would go into that.
Could not be me. Who would do that? Right. League. Let's go. Let's go. Join league. Right. Well, give it to me again, mate. I'll be in 2 seconds.
139278223.
823. Bosh. Join it.
There we go. Hey, look at that. I'm
Hey.
not making you an admin. I am.
No,
not.
that's a dangerous
It's a
move.
dangerous game. Dangerous game. There we are, Felipe.
There we go. Felipe Massive is in. I'm pretty happy with my team. Go. Let's run through your lineup, mate. I think we'll do that.
Let's have a quick look at my team. Let's have a look at my. This is my starting team. I haven't really properly done it. I've just thrown it together.
I don't know.
McLaren.
I don't hate that. To be fair, I do not.
I don't
hate
hate it. I mean, one thing once you get in and out there, and once you can start looking at some of the nuances, some of the extra bonus points that you can score, it makes a difference who you choose from a team lineup. Just something to read about that. I don't hate it. I will. I mean, I've got an extra budget. You know, I might.
Yeah, so you've got money to play with. I really don't.
Have you gone? What have you gone? Constructors? Have you spent your money on your constructors or on your drivers?
Kind of both, but I've definitely had to make some money saving choices. So
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I'll go with the money saving measures first because I think it's funny. I've gone Logan Sargent.
Nice. Yep. No, fine.
Because
Yep.
I mean he's
like, what is he like, the cheapest?
He's
one
only
on there or
3
something?
mil, which means like if he's terrible, then okay.
No harm, no foul. Yep.
But you know, if he does fairly decent things in a Williams, like Albon could do. I'm not saying he will. Obviously, it's his rookie year in F1. This could be a rough ride of it. But you know, I think the upsides have more potential than the downsides. I think.
Yes.
Maybe. Probably
I think
not.
you're right. I think you're right. I mean, as I say, the scoring might make you want to rethink that if you have a quick.
Yeah, I will actually read the rules in a minute. And my lineup will be different by next week.
The lineup will be different because the team, whoever out qualifies their teammate, gets a bonus 5 points. So
okay, maybe not then. The other 2 drivers, though, I think I've got quite wisely, and this is where a lot of my budget has been sunk in. I've got Lewis Hamilton and Cheese Leclerc as my other 2 drivers, which I think is a pretty reasonable lineup.
It's like guaranteed scoring, guaranteeing going to be at the top of the.
See, looking at your driver lineup, though, that's a lot more balanced than mine is. Those are 3 incredibly talented drivers. That's a very good looking.
It's
Very
not a
good
bad
looking
line.
driver lineup.
And as I say, some of the scoring is based around not just qualifying, but also racecraft in terms of overtakes. And this guy on the right-hand side has a tendency of maybe not doing the best qualifying, but in races tends to be, you know, moving up the field and making overtakes and scoring
And
higher.
even if Verstappen does not, for whatever reason, start at the front, he's not afraid of a cheeky move. Has been known to make an overtake.
Has been known to make an overtake or 17.
Yes,
in one race.
He's definitely capable of it.
Capable of overtaking the whole of the pack in one race.
I'm also quite excited. We've both got 3 different constructors. We've got 6 different constructors going on. I don't have any of the same ones. So I've gone Alpha Tauri. Again, I've gone Williams as my money saving measure, but I know Albon could do some pretty decent things.
Could score you some little extra points there, yeah.
And again, I think where I've sunk most of the money into constructors wise, I've gone for Mercedes. I'm believing in this black car.
You're really buying into the constructors black.
In a year where every car is black, I am believing in this particular one.
Nice.
Might go terribly.
Might go terribly wrong, but hey, you've got pre-season to decide.
We'll see. Logan Sargent's going to carry me. I'm telling you.
could be the hot take. Logan
the dark
Sargent,
horse. Cheese Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton do nothing for me, but Logan Sargent carries the team.
Carries the team to Drivers' Championship or something.
Again, though, I feel like with both of your combinations, you've got a good, like, level-ish playing field. Like those 3 teams, I would probably expect to be roughly on the same footing. Like maybe McLaren a little bit above, but I guess in terms of spread of those 3 cars, they're pretty even. Whereas again, Mercedes, AlphaTauri, and Williams, I've kind of got a
Boom or
front
bust
runner,
almost, haven't
a
you?
middle of the pack, and someone who's going to be way off it. So I mean, like, this could get wild. We've gone two
This
very
could get
different
wild.
approaches with
I mean,
this.
you could scream ahead with the Mercedes until the potential, if you like, Mercedes boom or bust, where it starts to failing, whatever else, don't score, and then you look at your other teams and you go, oh dear.
Yes.
Whereas as you say, this one at the moment is a balance. You can guarantee you're going to get a haul of points for your constructors.
It's going to be solid. I think it's going to be good.
It's a solid but not spectacular, whereas you might be spectacular yet.
But also have some pretty dire moments in there as well.
Pretty bad weekends where you may have 0 points.
Yeah, see, now we've had this chat, I think I will reevaluate the rules and we'll go over this next week, I think.
Absolutely. What we'll try and do next week, because I know I pinged this on Twitter and Adam from Fantasy GP said he'd be more than happy to jump on and have a chat.
Yes.
And I think, why should we not do that next week before preseason testing? Let's have a chat about Fantasy GP, get them on board, get a bit of advertising for those guys, maybe a few more people joining our league.
Maybe he can tell me how it works, and then I'll rejig my team based on what he says.
Maybe
Because
we'll use your team as a guinea pig. How about that?
Yeah, this is how not to build a Fantasy GP team.
Maybe build the worst team you can build and then let Adam tear it apart next week.
Just remaining budget 60 mil. I spent nothing. My team is terrible.
The team is empty.
Yeah.
That sounds like a plan. I'll reach out to Adam. Hopefully he's around. We'll organise a day next week. He can jump
Wicked.
on. We'll do a Fantasy GP tutorial for everybody out there. But until then, this has been Let's Talk Sport. Have fun out there, people.